This is Matt.
And this is Topher.
And this is Out of Bed.
I really just like seeing our guest's face every time we start this podcast because they have zero expectations coming into this, and we impress them every single time.
It's like, wow, that first 5 seconds is magic.
Yeah, get ready for it to go the hell downhill.
Hey there, I'm Matt.
Yeah, I'm Topher. Sorry, I was drinking beverage. Water this time.
Easy
no whiskey
now.
ginger for me now. I'm just having a water.
We're all having water.
We are all having water, except for Aaron, who just finished a whiskey, I think.
It's the sober show.
He's almost finished a whiskey. Still almost finished. Wow, that is a small sip. Aaron took a very small sip of whiskey. Anyway, welcome to Out of Bed. This is a podcast that myself, Topher Dara, and my friend Matt Palmer next to me do, where we talk to our friends about what gets them out of bed, what they're passionate about, and what they like in life. Because that's cool. Yeah, that's a good description. I'm going to go with that. We haven't recorded in a while, so I forgot how to do this. How do we podcast, Matt?
I come in here blind.
Yep.
You bring a friend, or Aaron brings a friend.
Yeah, because you still have zero friends to contribute.
That is exactly true.
Can't wait for that. I'm really excited for your
I don't talk to
first.
people outside of here.
That's true. That's very true.
I sit in a dark office all day long, and I don't ask. I ask that nobody bothers me at all for 9 hours, and then I walk out of there.
Yeah. Isn't your job to talk to other people on the internet, though, and like share with other people on the internet?
Mostly delete their comments.
Delete their offensive
and
comments.
ban them.
And ban them. That's good.
Yep. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It's like, no, welcome to my world.
You're
now,
you're like excommunicating them from the comment section.
You just hit the nail on the head.
There we go. Perfect. So we do have a guest. It's not just Matt and I staring at each other lovingly and talking. We have other people in this room right now. So there's somebody right across from me. Can you introduce yourself, sir?
Do I say my full name with the middle initial, middle name,
full name,
suffix?
middle initial, title, and
social security number?
Social security number, and interesting fact.
James R. Depfer III.
Wait, his middle name. Your middle name's. What's your middle name?
It's just R. There's no name.
Oh, really? Wow.
They just stopped at the letter R.
That's right.
That's fancy.
Yeah, my parents couldn't agree on a name that started with R, so they just went with the one initial.
That explains a lot. I get that.
Go.
Yeah.
Your parents are the most interesting people in the world.
I assure you they're not. Which is...
This is just family therapy for Jimmy. Tell us about your mom and dad, please.
I'd rather not. Let's carry on here.
That's fair. Yeah.
Oh no.
No comment. So Jimmy, what do you do in life? Who are you? Why are you here?
The latter question, I think you'd be better suited to ask. What do I do in life? I do various things for work. I'm a consultant. I do like financial advisory work for the federal government, which is everybody wake back up.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I did not know there a little bit.
Yeah, that's it sounds really boring, but it's actually not too bad. But yeah, I'm from the Baltimore area. You know, we know each other from church. You may or may not have introduced me to the woman that I'm currently married to.
I did. I forgot about that. I did marry you. I didn't marry you. I didn't marry you. Is this water?
Legal
yeah, that's water. We're good. Yeah, I did. I introduced you to your current wife. By
the way, does your fiance know that you're married to Jimmy?
My fiance. I hope my fiance knows because she's sitting right next to Jimmy right now. I did introduce you to your wife, not your current wife, your all-time, like forever
That's
wife.
Right.
What's her name? We have to give her a shout out, right?
Her name is Catherine.
Yeah, shout out to Catherine. Jimmy told me before the podcast started that he is both morally and sacramentally obligated to mention her on the podcast, and we have done that.
Yeah, so we can move on.
That's the end of the podcast.
Yeah,
We're done.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
I think she'll be satisfied with
you
that.
came all the way down here from Boston just to mention her name on a podcast that nobody has heard yet.
Exactly.
And we're out.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. No.
All right, head to bed.
Larger question. You are a friend of mine. You are a consultant. but what exactly gets you out of bed?
Oh man, that's such a broad question, and when you told me to think about it, my mind went about 100 different directions.
And I want to hear about like 98 of them.
I'll try to keep it to that, but
Okay. Perfect.
I don't know. Is this a hour-long podcast? Is it just 24 hours?
This is however
The
long.
average podcast has been 4 hours and 22 minutes.
That's perfect.
This is however long you need it to be.
Oh man, I need it to be much longer than anyone wants to be here. But,
Perfect. I love it.
So I started thinking about like individual things that I like to do, right? I mean, you know that I grew up playing hockey, ice hockey. I played ice hockey in college. I still play.
Aaron got real excited. I think I can't tell if he's excited or not, but he's just staring at you because he also plays hockey.
It looks like Aaron also wants to marry you.
Again, I've talked to Aaron about this. Like I've talked to Aaron about the fact that you both play hockey, and I'm pretty sure you guys have played hockey against each other or in the same league at some point, or at least in the same place.
Yeah, that's virtually assured in the state of Maryland.
Yeah.
Which isn't the hockey hotbed that you might think it is.
It's
So,
not, but the Caps.
That's right. Yeah, maybe transforming into.
That's not Maryland.
But it's, I mean, who really wants to classify Washington, D.C. as a place, though? Nobody? Exactly. That's right.
That is my birthplace. You take that back.
No. I
Please.
won't. No, I won't take it back. It's garbage.
It's America's heartland.
Who says that? Who agrees on that? Nobody. Nobody says that. Listen to our guest. Jimmy, hockey. Tell me more.
I don't have much more to say about hockey.
Perfect.
I was going to move on to item number 2 if that's.
Oh, no, please. Item number 2.
got
Okay, so
98
hockey.
to get through, so-
Hockey's a good one. Good.
Yeah.
Real quick, where do you play? Do you play at Gardens?
Yeah, I grew up playing at Laurel, Piney Orchard, all over this area. Like Topher said, I live in Boston now, so done some playing up there. But yeah.
What teams did you play for down here? Like, do you remember the names of?
Yeah, so I played for a team called the Americans.
Ooh, good name.
Formerly known as Donkey Punch.
Yes, we played Donkey Punch.
Yeah, you're familiar. That's the name you're familiar with.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man.
Americans? Not ringing a bell? No?
What about Donkey
All
Punch?
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I recall them.
They get away with some good names.
Yeah.
That sounds like a terrible custom team in like NHL 2K17 or something like that.
I like the way it went from benign to, oh my God, you just said that.
Don't Google Donkey Punch. Nobody. Don't Google it,
Nope.
please.
Nope.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Thundercats was my team. I don't know if you
Yeah. I've heard of the Thundercats.
I hear they go
They tend to.
as a Thundercats go.
It's actually Ho, I think.
Is it Ho? Thundercats Ho? Really?
All right, we're like 7 episodes into this show, and Aaron has never asked a question, and now this guy comes in here.
And he derails the entire podcast by talking about obscure ass hockey team
Seriously,
names.
he put 2 elbows on the table. He's like, tell me about your hockey experience.
Yeah. You know that thing that you were done talking about? Can you say more?
Tell me all your team's names.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Item number 2.
Yeah, we'll chat more about hockey offline.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly.
So hockey's obviously been a big part of my life. Sports in general have been a big part of my life. I mean, I have a lot of good things in my life. My family is wonderful. My family's all in the Baltimore area. I'm married now, so my wife is incredible. Which you get.
I can confirm that. That is true. That is very true. She is incredible. Good job.
As Chris knows, and I mentioned that we know each other from church, my faith is a huge part of my life as well. So these are all things that sort of came to my mind when I thought, what gets me out of bed? What am I passionate about? And they seem sort of disparate. You know what I mean? There's not really a common thread that runs through them. So I started, I had to take a step back and see if I could find out, what's in common with all these things. Like what big picture thing actually gets me out of bed. I'm going to make a connection that I think you'll appreciate.
Okay.
Because you've compared me many times to Chris Traeger from Parks and Recreation.
Oh, 100%. You're Chris Traeger. Yeah. Your body is a microchip.
There you go.
Literally.
So Chris Traeger, as many of you will know, had a blood disease when he was a child, right?
Yeah.
And part of the reason that he's so enthusiastic about life and he's so excited about all the different possibilities is because he wasn't supposed to survive very long past his childhood. For me, it's a somewhat similar situation, but a self-inflicted disease, more on that side, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my life making really, really bad decisions. And I say to people all the time, and certainly we can get more detail if you like later, but I say to people all the time that there's no reason that I shouldn't be dead or in jail right now. There's no reason for that. And I think, I guess to get to the point, what gets me out of bed every morning is the fact that I am alive and that I do have all these good things in my life. And I really can't explain why. The only thing that I know is that I'm incredibly blessed, and I wake up every morning, and I might not, Chris knows this, I might not show the Chris Traeger excitement for life externally, but internally, I'm just so excited and passionate about having that next day and having that day to help others or to serve my wife in some way or to show my family that I love them. Just to have any small or large opportunity on a daily basis is a tremendous blessing for me. So, in broad strokes, that's sort of what gets me out of bed every day.
Okay, I didn't realize it was this serious.
Yeah, I didn't prep. I knew that this stuff was gonna happen, but I did not prep Matt or Aaron at all, and I was just like, oh, it's my friend Jimmy. Jimmy's gonna come and talk.
And now, like, Jaw's back in my head. So what was your turning point then?
My turning point, I should have had several, all of which I ignored, except the last one. I've had a lot of problems with alcohol abuse in my life. So that's just one of the issues that took me to this sort of dark period that I was referencing. And when I was, I think, 22 years old, I got my first DUI. And it was a doozy. It was very, very serious. And, the fact that I made it out alive and uninjured, and that other people made it out alive and uninjured was sort of a miracle. And, got in a lot of trouble for that, obviously. Did a little time in jail, 4 days, nothing, I didn't do what is it called, a nickel or a dime or anything like that.
I don't know. You're the one who has the jail time. We don't know. Right, yeah. We don't know these jail terms.
You served your nickel.
Yeah. So that happened, and that was a huge wake up call, right? And I thought, okay, I get it. I gotta get this under control. I'm gonna stop drinking for 6 months. So 6 months went by, and it wasn't that difficult.
So you made it a goal to stop drinking for 6 months, or your goal to stop drinking just lasted 6 months?
I think I just thought that I was going to stop drinking for a time. I never had it in my mind that I'm never going to drink again. It was just like, I need to take a step back, get this under control so I can learn to drink like a normal person and not destroy my life. So 6 months went by. I felt pretty normal. I felt like, oh, this hasn't been difficult. I haven't had cravings or anything for alcohol. I haven't had this uncontrollable desire to drink. I've had a good job. Everything seemed to be going fine. So I kind of eased myself back into my former lifestyle. I was still hanging out with the same people. And so I started doing some of the same things that I was doing before, going out to the bars and going to parties and stuff like that. And it was a while before my next wake up call. It was when I was about 27. And this was sort of two very rapid wake up calls looking back on it. And again, I ignored the first one, which is incredible to me now. I actually went down to Mexico during spring break when I was 27 years old. One of my buddies sold spring break trips to college kids. That was like his job, which is still nuts to me. But so I went down there to visit him for about a week. And one night, you drink kind of all day at those things. And I went out one night, and I, to this day, don't remember what happened. And I woke up not like on the ground or like sleeping somewhere. I woke up in a walk, like I was walking. So I just kind of came to consciousness again.
Wow.
And I wasn't walking like through an urban area. I was in one of these resort towns, right? Where it's all, there's hotels and restaurants and stuff like that. I was walking through a legitimate field, like just a field in the middle of Mexico. And I didn't know where I was. Didn't know what happened. Didn't know where I'd gone. Didn't know what I did. Didn't know what, didn't know anything. So it took me a while to sort of figure out where I was. Praise God, I speak Spanish, so I was able to find somebody and have them get me back to where I needed to go. But I actually got on a plane like the next day. I paid like $500 to get an early flight home. Excuse me. And I kind of felt that feeling again, like, wow, I need to get this under control. But I didn't act on it for some reason. I got home and I think I fell into this sort of just this cycle of self-pity, just feeling bad about myself and hating myself and just like, what is going on? Why can't I get this under control? Why can't I just be a normal person? And the day after I got back, I got my second DUI, and it was another really bad one. Ended up in the hospital. Again, thank God nobody was hurt, injured, anything like that. But I was eventually, I'll skip forward to the sentence. I was sentenced to a year in jail. At that hearing. But they suspended 11 months and 2 days, I think. And then they gave me credit for 28 days of me having spent at a rehab facility, which is what my ultimate turning point was and what really saved my life. And stop me at any point if you want to interject or anything. But I'll try to wrap this story up a little bit. It's kind of crazy looking back on sort of how all these events came together, because my mom picked me up from the hospital after, I got the DUI and got arrested and everything. She was kind of helping me work through it. Like, what do we need to do? She took me to see a lawyer, this random lawyer in like, the suburbs of Maryland. She didn't know him, she had just like looked him up on the internet, Googled or something. And he kind of looked at me and was like, he said to me what I kind of had felt within myself, but I needed somebody to look at me and say it, like, dude, you got to get this under control or you're going to die. Like you're going to die. There's no two ways about it. And he recommended this rehab facility to my mom and to me, obviously. And he said, it's one of the best rehab facilities in the country. Not only will it look really good, like in front of a judge, but more importantly, it works for people, right?
Yeah, it'll help you.
And he kind of casually mentioned, it's a Catholic facility. It's has Catholic roots, and immediately my mom was like, done. That's where you're going. Like, I don't even need to hear what the price is. I don't care what it is. Like that's where you're going.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Did you grow up Catholic?
I did. Yeah. I had sort of an interesting religious upbringing. My mom's whole side of the family is very Catholic. My dad's side is not religious at all. And my parents got divorced when I was 6 years old. So I did all of the, sacraments of initiation and everything all the way up through First Communion. And then my parents got divorced around that time. And so there wasn't much involvement for me in the church beyond First Communion. Like I wasn't confirmed, when most folks are in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because we hadn't been going to church, but I played hockey and I was traveling all the time and stuff like that. So, the church wasn't, a big part of my life growing up, unfortunately. But at that time, my mom had been sort of coming back to the church. And I think this was kind of a wake up call for a lot of people in my family, frankly. Like we need to get back to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I went to this rehab facility and, there's no phones, no TVs, no internet, nothing. Like you have to give everything over. And, you can just basically, when you're not in group therapy or doing something like that, you're in your room and you can read, or you can go, they had a chapel and they had like mass there and stuff like that. And my grandfather, my grandparents, my mom's parents, are very Catholic and always been very involved. He sent a bunch of books up to me, and most of them were Catholic books, and have a whole lot of interest in them to begin with. But I started going to the chapel in the mornings, and the chapel kind of looked out over a river. The facility was right on a river, and the sun would like shine in through the stained glass windows.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I don't know, it was, I'm not one, this, Chris, that like is able to kind of appreciate beauty very easily. It's hard for me to kind of access that part of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like one of the most beautiful, like experiences that I've had of just nature and sort of that convergence with God, having, being in the chapel. So I would do that on a daily basis, pretty much. I wasn't really necessarily praying, but I was just kind of sitting there like in silence and just thinking. I was started reading those books that my grandfather sent me. They're kind of interesting, on an intellectual level, at least. But and then this will kind of wrap this up a little bit. I was walking across the campus at one point during my stay. There was probably halfway through, so like 2 weeks in, and I remember it was snowing, and this was like in late March or something. So I remember it. Everyone was surprised, like it's snowing. I don't remember if it was night or very early morning, but it was sort of dark. And it was, it's a very pretty campus, so it's snow's coming down, and and I was walking across the campus, just go back to my room, and I didn't hear a voice, right? I didn't hear anything with my ears, but I felt something inside of me that wasn't me say to me, "You can do this. I'm with you, and everything is going to be okay." And I don't take stuff like that lightly. I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm skeptical in my nature, but I'm very like empirical, I think, by nature.
Yeah.
And I would tend to be somebody to doubt stuff like that. But that's the realest thing that I think I've ever felt, and it stopped me like right in my tracks. I was walking across the campus and I stopped, and that changed everything. I felt, I just knew that everything was going to be okay. The first 2 weeks I was kind of like, I just got to get through this, and then I got to figure out how I'm going to get out of all this trouble, how I'm going to keep my job, how, all these different things, how I'm going to, explain this to my family. But then I didn't have to figure out anything. Like I knew everything was going to be okay. So, I had another couple of weeks there. I started going to like mass every day there. I went to talk to the priest. I read all the books that my grandfather had sent me, like sped through them.
Yeah.
And I left there, and my mom took me back home, and my house, which I owned at the time, had a Catholic church like right around the corner. I could have walked to it. and I never did. And we drove by it, and I was like, Mom, I gotta go to confession. Like, I gotta go to confession. And I don't remember this specifically, but I guarantee she like broke down in tears because my mom cries a lot. But you know, she dropped me off there. I went and it wasn't scheduled confession time, so I had to go find the priest, and he sat down with me for, I don't know, an hour and a half while I said, it's been 20 years since my last confession. And I had to go through all of the things that I had done, all the really bad things that I had done in my life. And I walked out of there even more convicted that everything was going to be okay. And I felt every burden that I had ever put on myself, every burden that had ever been put on me by another person was gone. And I was just, all I felt in that moment was grateful. I just felt grateful for my life, for everything in it. I felt grateful for the hard times that I knew were ahead. I everything good and bad, I felt grateful for. So, that's my turning point, I guess.
How long ago was that?
So interestingly, I left rehab on Good Friday in 2014.
Wow.
So about four and a half years ago.
Oh man,
You seem like you're doing all right now.
Yeah. Things are it's another thing that it's hard for me to explain how much good has come since then. I don't drink anymore. I have no issues with it. I have no desire to drink.
He's a great DD. He's a wonderful DD.
I'm around people who drink. My wife drinks occasionally. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. And just looking back on how I used to be, there's no explanation for that. I have an awesome job. I have an awesome family. I have great friends. I have an unfathomably amazing wife. And I have my faith. And I came out of this whole thing just knowing, basically knowing two things. Like, the fact that I came out of all of this alive and basically in a pretty good situation can only be explained by, a combination of two things. One, God loves me like more than I'm stumbling over words to explain how much I can't fathom how much God loves me.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And the second thing is, he has a plan for me personally, right? Not just a plan for humanity in general, or, a plan for, some group of people, some abstraction, but a plan for me personally. And that kind of goes back to, when you asked me in the beginning why I get out of bed in the morning, it's because of that possibility. It's because of that opportunity to live up to the plan that God has for me, whether it's something huge, where I think my wife's more likely to change the world on her own than I am, but maybe, who knows? Maybe it's something big that'll come along in the future, but more likely it's the little things every day where I have opportunities to serve other people, and I have opportunities to share my faith with people. I see other people suffering in the same way that I did, and it kind of clicks. It's like, that's why I went through all that, because now I can help this person. I get it. I get what that person is going through. And there's no way I could have helped that person before. That person would have been out of reach to me. So, that kind of ties the whole thing together. Like, I just have these tremendous opportunities every day, whether it's through big things or small things to really be who I was created to be, and to let people know how much God loves them.
I'm like, oh gosh. So like hockey, man. I mean, just no, jeez. I think every time I have conversations with you, I get a little bit more of both pre-rehab Jimmy and post-rehab Jimmy. Like, I met you post-rehab, so when I first met you, I didn't know any of this stuff you had just told me. And some of that stuff is still new to me, after having known you for, 3 years at this point. And I think what's really cool is you mentioned these little things that you think are little things. And I think you are very good at what you think are little things, but they're not to other people. From like having been in your wedding and like talked to family members and friends who know you much more intimately than I've known you, and known you for much longer, like those things that you think are little, like having a conversation with a friend about alcohol, or having a conversation with a friend about faith, or just volunteering at some random stranger's youth group who you've never met before, which is how you met me. Those things felt like little things to you. And it seems like maybe partially because you have this infinite like respect for this life that you feel maybe you don't deserve. So like anything that you do feels like little compared to what you've been given and been blessed with. But to those other people, those are not little things. Those are big things to them. I think, I think one of my favorite parts of your wedding, which is what, like a month and a half behind us, 2 months behind us at this point. I don't know. July, right? It was July.
August
was it?
11th.
Oh, geez. See, I can't remember. It like one of my favorite parts was the reception and the little after party afterwards, because I would just sit down with your cousins, or with your best friend, or other people, your aunt that like know you, and hear these stories about even in the times where they were like aching for you in terms of your struggles, just how much you meant to them, and then how much you've done for them since, and how you've tried to be there and been like a light for them, I think is really cool, because again, those you mentioned, those little things, and like to us they might feel like little things as we're doing them, because it's something as simple as showing up and just having a conversation with somebody, but for the people that they're happening to, they can be those massive things that they needed at that exact moment. Like that lawyer mentioning a rehab facility that he's just like, oh, this is a good rehab facility and it would look good to the court and it would really help you. But the fact that it was a Catholic rehab facility, that is exactly what you needed at that time. Wow, jeez. I have so many thoughts. Matt, say words.
Say words. No pressure. So you get married a month or so ago, 2 months ago. You're standing there up on the altar. What are you thinking? Are you able to sort of put everything in perspective and go, like, how am I at this point right now? Are you like fully cognizant and appreciative, or what's your mindset when you're there?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had two different mindsets at different times. Before, I'll start with after. After they opened the door and I saw my wife, I couldn't think of anything but how drop dead gorgeous she is and how incredible she is. But as I was, and I guess this was throughout the day, and as I was, spending some time alone in the church beforehand, praying, and I was able to step back, I think, as far as I'm humanly capable of stepping back, and recognizing how many things had come together in just the right way to bring me to that point, and how certain I was that was exactly where I was supposed to be, and how, I feel like I'm using the word unfathomable or some form of that so many times in this, but how like unfathomably provident God is, and how he fits all of these things together, all of these seemingly awful decisions and awful events, along with all of the good things, and he just put them all together. And I was standing there ready to marry who is, a woman who's just like universally admired for her love and holiness. And it was an overwhelming feeling for me to just know where I had been, what I had done to my own life, and where God had brought me.
Yeah.
So prior to like us taping this show, we were talking about This Is Us, and like how like it always takes these emotional twists and turns. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? This dude's life's a whole lot better than This Is Us.
This would make an amazing third season of This Is Us. This is the whole third season is just Jimmy's
just
life.
scrap that cast and just have Jimmy.
Exactly. No. Well, and I joke about, like I introduced you to your wife, and I like jokingly take credit for it, but it is so ridiculous to me that I was standing in a pizza shop in Baltimore, and I run into this woman who I've known since elementary school, and we've only known each other like from elementary school. So I haven't seen her since I was in like 8th grade or 7th grade or whatever. But I run into her, and I happen to know she's a hockey fan, and she knows that I'm a youth minister, and that like she teaches some of the kids at her school that I also like work with in my youth group. And we're just catching up, and you happen to call at that exact moment, and you're like, hey, I have tickets to a hockey game. And again, I know she likes hockey, and I was just like, and you were like, hey, do you anybody else that could come? And I think I turned to Frankie first, and she was like, oh no, I'm not free that day, which Frankie never has her calendar on her. So the fact that she knew she wasn't free that day right away is like, oh, maybe she just didn't want to go to a hockey game. I don't know. Probably that one.
Or she was like, introduce her to him and get this done.
Exactly. But that was not my thought at all. My thought was like, oh, I haven't seen this friend in a long time, and I know she likes hockey. Do you want to come hockey with us? Like, and she was like, and on her part, hasn't seen me since like 7th grade, so why would she want to come to a random hockey game with me? All we have in common is that we both like do ministry, and know like we know similar high school students. Like the fact that all of that came together for her to bring another friend with her, that she's like, oh, maybe my friend will like this guy, and then she falls in love with you. Like it's all Catherine falls in love with you. Yeah, and she's just like, all of that together, I get zero credit for that. I jokingly take credit for it, and sometimes seriously take credit for it. But at the end of the day, it is all just this, like, God's providence and him working in our lives in these really insane ways to get to that point. And I feel like you even being my friend comes from those struggles that got you back into the church.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned all of those things that came back together, and in my head, I'm tracing it back even further to other events that were improbable or near impossible.
Yeah.
And like you said, the fact that we even met and became friends is volunteering for youth ministry is not something that anyone who knows me would have ever expected me to do. Given my extreme introversion and the fact that I never considered myself good with like teenagers or anyone that age. But I still remember when you stood up at the church that one day to talk about it. And that was right when I had started going back to Mass. I'd only been going back to Mass for, a couple months at that point. And you started talking about youth ministry and how you're looking for volunteers, and my mom had started getting more involved, as I said. My grandparents had always been involved, just doing just about everything. My grandfather's done prison ministry for like 40 years. And I just felt it. I was like, I got to do that. I think my mom was even like, what? Like that? Like, I don't think that's, I don't think that's for you. I'm like, no, that's what I got to do. That's it.
And when you showed up, I thought the same thing. I was like, why is he here? I thought you were accidentally there for AA, which kind of, I mean, that was your form of AA. I mean, I was surprised because I was so used to the youth ministry side of volunteers not wanting to help with things and trying to help the exact minimal amount. I have had amazing volunteers, but in ministry, it is very difficult to get people to commit to anything. And so as I am explaining what the role would be for you, again, this is my first time meeting you, I start rattling off all of these things like, oh, you have to be here on Sundays, and occasionally you'll have to help with food, and occasionally you have to help with setup. And I was just waiting for you to be like, oh, that's too much. But each time you're like, yeah, okay. And I was just blown away that you were just like, yep, I'm here to say yes. I'm just going to say yes to everything right now because I don't know. It was just really, yeah.
So this is out in Jessup?
Yeah, at St. Lawrence.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out St. Lawrence.
So are you a Howard County guy or?
Anne Arundel County. So
okay.
I grew up in Severn,
okay,
Hanover area. Yep.
Okay, so you're in Boston now? Is that right?
Yeah, so my wife is not only gorgeous and loving, but she's also brilliant, and she's in grad school at Harvard right now. So we moved up 9 days after we got married.
Wow.
In August, and spending the year up there. And she'll graduate in May, and we both want to move back down here to start a family because both of our families are down here. Almost my entire family and her parents. So looking forward.
So you're just getting to know the city then?
Yeah, we're getting to know the city.
How do you feel about the city? I already know the answer to this because Jimmy was venting to me before the podcast started. But how are you enjoying Boston?
It's not a good match, is how I'll charitably put it. It's
you don't have to. The city of Boston isn't listening. It's okay, Jimmy.
Don't sell yourself short. This could explode.
We have no demographical studies on this podcast yet, since it's never broadcast. But we might hit the Boston market in a very substantial way. So.
Exactly. I'm hedging.
This podcast is brought to you by Boston Market. Thank you. I'm really proud of that one. Continue. Anyway, sorry.
It's just it's different, you know. I've only ever really lived in the Baltimore area. She's from the Baltimore area and went to school in Pittsburgh, and I just think those cities are a lot different than Boston. And I'm sure we would, if we were intending to stay for a long time, we would adjust. I just think it would be a long adjustment period because it is so much more different than we expected.
So you've had to take your career up there too?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate with that, actually. When I went to tell the people that I work with that, you know, we were planning on moving to Boston, I had fully expected to have to find a new job. I had already started looking at postings in Boston, and the reaction was so positive that it really caught me off guard. They were just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like, we'll figure it out." And I wasn't sure how to react, so I kind of just got up and walked out. I was like, "All right, I'll be back later to talk about this because I have to go tell some recruiters that I don't need a job in Boston."
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, they've been really cool about it. I have a pretty set like travel schedule where I come down here every couple of weeks and spend the rest of the time up there with her, which is, you know, good for her as well because she gets time to study and focus on things that she needs to do. So
yeah,
that is, dude, you got it going on.
I know. That's what I was saying that too.
You have no idea.
That job, yeah.
These are only a few of the things that are just rained upon me in terms of blessings, and I realize that I have these, and they're probably too small to call them epiphanies, but like on almost a daily basis, I just realize like what just happened. That was incredible. You know what I mean? I did nothing to make what just happened happen. I did nothing. I had no hand in it.
I mean, calm down, Jimmy. They were just waffle fried nachos that we had at Abbey Burger. They weren't that. It wasn't an epiphany. It was just good nachos.
Only through the grace of God can man merit nachos like that.
Exactly. That is very true.
Man cannot merit nachos.
No,
on his
that's
own
fair.
like that.
Where was this?
Abbey Burger.
Oh, dude, did you get a burger?
Of course.
So good.
Yeah. Baltimore burger. Yeah. That's why I'm here.
Oh man, that's the only reason. I was like, Jimmy, if you come on my podcast, we'll also get Abbey Burger. He's like, okay, fine. I have to stay?
You gotta
for the
tell me
podcast?
about that. I'll put the kids to bed earlier.
Yeah. sorry, kids. You got to go to bed. Bedtime has changed. Daddy needs a burger.
So I gotta ask this. How did you get a job with the federal government with your background? Did you have to explain anything?
So my first job out of graduate school was with the federal government. And timeline's kind of interesting. I got the job in like May, just as I was graduating with my master's degree. And I got that first DUI in July, and I was scheduled to start my job in August. So, I had to explain some stuff. I had to go to them and say, hey, I know that the background check is completed, but I gotta be transparent here about things. And to be clear, it wasn't like I didn't need a secret or top secret clearance or anything. It's what's called a public trust background check. And I had to tell my new boss, who I had essentially only met once at the interview, and who basically told me how many other good candidates there were, that I had just done like the stupidest thing that I could possibly do. And I'm still close with him to this day. He's retired and I don't work for the government directly anymore, but he was so just, I don't even know what word to use to describe it, but he just sat me down and he was like, look, I get it, but these are things that will follow you and that can ruin your career and ruin your life. So, we appreciate you telling us, but, just kind of take care of it. And that's the first, time I had to do that. And then I actually worked for the same guy and worked at the same place. 5 years later, when I had to go to rehab, and he gave me a month off and let me keep my job. Gave me a month off and was like, go take care of yourself. And we'll be here when you get back. There's just endless examples of people being there and the situations just being just right, where if anything had been off, none of it would have worked out the way it has. And like I said, I'm still close with him. He was at my wedding, actually. I don't know if you met him or got a chance to talk to him, but some of my family did. And yeah, he's a great guy. I still have lunch with him every once in a while, and he knows what an effect he had on my life. So
does that the way that people showed you kindness and compassion, does that impact? It sounds like it did, but I feel like I'm answering my own question. But does that impact the way you approach people and people in need, or people that are struggling, or just people you encounter?
Yeah, I mean, it has to. I mean, not only the way that people treated me and the things that people did for me, but just the overall realization of, I did everything that I could to lose everything that I had, including my life, right? So when I got my life back, so to speak, it was a very real, realization. And I think this is an incredible blessing from God. There's a realization that like, none of this is mine. Like, everything that is given to me by God, and it's to be used at the service of others. And when Topher was going through, some of the things that my family and my friends were kind enough to say at the wedding, all I can think about when I hear those things is like, yeah, those are examples where I responded to my calling to love. But I mean, I would have no ability to do that if God didn't love me first, and if God didn't love me infinitely more than I could ever love him back. So yeah, all of those things have had a tremendous impact on how I see other people and how I see, the good things in my life, because there's so much good that I have that I'm very cognizant that I've done nothing to deserve it. So I don't even know if it would take some real mental gymnastics for me to think that I could just hoard, whatever I've been given, and not give it back, because it's not mine. I've done nothing to deserve it, and I in fact have done everything to squander it.
So it seems like this kind of mentality, this kind of gratefulness, and this servant mentality that you have, it's gotta kind of penetrate every aspect of your life. It doesn't just stick to the faith realm. How does it is it something that can affect you out on the ice, or in any other hobbies, or any other aspects of your work, any other aspects of your daily life?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly should, and I would say that it does in many instances. Some environments are more challenging than others. I tell my wife that, when I go to play hockey and I come back, I said to her one time, like, I think I found the most unchristian environment on the planet, and it's a men's hockey locker room. Like, just like the things that are said in there, and it's just appalling sometimes. And like, I'm very aware that I was part of that for a really long time. So most of my reaction in places like that now is just silence. If something really egregious is said, I'll kind of speak up, because I've known most of these guys that I play with for a really long time, so they respect me enough that I can say something. On the ice, I think I'm a lot calmer and a lot, I don't know, I'm a lot more gentle, I guess. Or at least I try to be. Again, with sports, you can kind of get caught up in emotion and sometimes overreact to things. But I do have that. I mean, the thing about faith is, like, once you have it, like, even if you try to block it out, it's just there. You know what I mean? And either I'm going to do the right thing, or I'm going to do the wrong thing and feel bad about it. So I might as well do the right thing. So when I'm out on the ice, I'm usually trying to, watch my language and not try to hurt anybody, obviously. Work is kind of an easier thing to describe. I've been, again, very blessed in my career in that, I've risen to a position where I get to manage other people. And I work in an industry that's, it's pretty young by, general standards. So we have a lot of, recent college graduates and people who, have only a few years of work experience, and they come in and work directly for me. And that's a huge opportunity for me to, I'm not going to actively evangelize necessarily at work unless somebody asks me to. But I can be that example of Christ's love and Christ's light and his compassion and understanding, and bring all of those things to work. When I listen to someone's problems, when I listen to someone's struggles, when I give some advice to a new employee or something like that, when I'm patient with, people who are difficult to deal with, those are things that I never would have been before, because I was so inward focused. I was so focused on myself all the time and how things made me feel. And if I was frustrated or I was annoyed, my face and my body language is going to show it. But now, even though I still fail a lot at, acting the way that I should and saying the things that I should, my focus is always outward. I'm much more aware of what the other person is feeling. And I think being married to Catherine and, being around her helps me a lot with that, because she is one of the most empathetic and compassionate people that I've ever met. So that kind of rubs off on me as well.
Have you found a hockey team yet in Boston?
I've been playing like random pickup games in Boston, and it's another thing with Boston. If the good hockey players in Boston are having like some secret pickup game, I need to know about it, because I'm playing these pickup games and I'm like, this is not Boston hockey. It's not nearly as good as the hockey down here, which is kind of the opposite of what I expected.
Yeah, because like hockey in Boston is like cultural.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a way of life up there. And there's like rinks everywhere, and there's way more leagues, and way more opportunities to play. And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe it's just diluted because there's so many different people playing, but I'm hoping to figure it out here soon. I'm actually really excited. I signed up for a league that has like a tryout almost. Like you go out, you try, and there's a draft. So that makes me feel really important. Yeah. Until I'm like the last draft pick, then it's going to be the worst.
Yeah, it's just like recess in 6th grade.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll either feel great or be devastated after that.
Well, that's perfect, because when you come back to Maryland, you don't even have to try out. You can be on our soccer team again.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, because you were a killer soccer goalie. So
did you witness the one goal?
He did not witness the goal. He did not win. A couple weeks ago, I talked about how I scored a goal in soccer, and it was the greatest.
It's been corroborated by multiple sources now, so I have no choice.
It's real.
It. Yeah.
It's been talked about on multiple podcasts.
What can I say? I'm a natural.
I just set you up.
Yeah, thank you. So
get over the net.
Big question for you: when you and Catherine move back to Maryland, will you be ready to join the Baltimore Bullet Club again?
Yeah, no question.
Perfect.
I had a blast with you guys. So.
Great. It's wonderful. Jimmy was the only reason that our team was good. Was it 2 years ago? We only lost one game during the regular season, and it was one that Jimmy was not there for. And I think in your entire time, you allowed maybe 3 goals the whole season?
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember being like pleasantly surprised at how similar playing goalie in soccer was to playing goalie in hockey, because I figured it was a lot different and I was going to be terrible, and it turned out that I wasn't terrible, so that was a relief for me.
It helped that they were also relatively small goals compared to like actual size soccer goals. They were like much. I'm not trying to hurt you.
We didn't have to mention that.
I wasn't trying to hurt your ego or anything.
Never played soccer in my life. Stepped right in, and I was a stud.
You were a stud. That was the story. Yeah, exactly. And the goals were the size of mountains.
I once played in the celebrity game at the Baltimore Blast when they were still at the First Mariner Arena.
All out of celebrities, were they?
Yes, they were completely out of celebrities. It was like, all right, we got this guy from the Catholic Review. Get on out of there. And I became keenly aware of how big the goal was, like down there in the field, and I was like, oh, God. Oh, no, it's above my head. Oh, it's a goal.
Yeah, I mean, this season, because we didn't have Jimmy, because he was getting ready to get married and move to Boston, I played goalie in our first game. And when I say I played goalie in our first game, I mean I played goalie in the first 3 minutes of our first game, and then was promptly taken out of that position because I allowed just as many goals in that many minutes. So, as many goals as Jimmy allowed the entire season, I allowed within the first.
So you've got to pull off a big trade with Boston to get him back.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
players to be named later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Aaron,
you want to go to Boston?
Aaron, you're cut.
Yeah, Aaron, you're no longer on that soccer team that you weren't on in the first place. So congratulations, you get to go to Boston now.
You know, it's remarkable to watch him now. He's like back to miming stuff. Like when we were talking hockey, he was like, just, blah, 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 blah. It's the Aaron Show with Jimmy. And now he's just miming.
Yeah, now he's just miming.
Okay, there's a rule of thumb. Don't piss off the sound guy. Just keep that in mind.
Hey, I didn't say anything nasty about you.
But we will at some point, I'm sure. So Oh no! Don't press anything. No. For those who wanted to know why I just said that, Aaron mimed like he was gonna press something, and so we were very worried. Anyway,
So 4 years ago, you could never have imagined where you are right now, right?
Yeah.
No, I couldn't have imagined one aspect of where I'm at now, much less the whole, picture.
So are you starting envisioning what you'll be like in 4 years? What your life will be like in 4 years?
Sometimes I do. My wife and I talk about that kind of stuff a lot, but I always kind of revert back to this, to that feeling that I had when I was walking through the snow at rehab, and I felt like everything was going to be fine. And it was just like, don't worry about it in an indifferent way, but like, God's going to take care of it and it's going to be awesome, and for me to try to predict what it's going to be, I think, kind of sets me up for, I don't know, some level of disappointment if it doesn't work out that way. Right. Yeah. So, I'm just a lot more open than I ever would have been now. And that's different for me because I'm a very structured and methodical and, planning type of person. And that would have been difficult for me before. But like I said, I think, God put me through all of this stuff to kind of shape me into, the person that he wants me to be, not the person that necessarily I thought I should be. And that's one aspect of that. I'm just so much more open to the future and so much more hopeful, and I'm just not anxious about things anymore. I know it's all going to be fine. And I mean, just look at my life now. It's wonderful, and it's the result of a lot of different things, good and bad. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you think, is there anything else that you think gets you out of bed? Anything? I know you mentioned like your mind went in 100 different directions, and you had one like, oh, hockey, and then two like this big, like that is a huge thing. Do you have any like little things that you think are supplemented by that, like that you also kind of add to you just being like, oh, this is gonna be a good day to get out of bed?
I mean, I don't want to exaggerate like my job, because I do like it, but it's taken on new meaning for me as well. I no longer see it as a way to inflate my own ego, for lack of a better way to put it. Sometimes I do use it like that, which I shouldn't do, but in a very real way, like I enjoy even the most mundane of tasks at work, because I can think about my wife at home, and I can think about, the family that we want to start in the future. And from there you can launch into a million different,
and that is the means for those other things.
Yeah, exactly.
Helping provide for those other things.
Exactly. And, I know you asked for small things, but, I have that hopeful aspect to why I get out of bed. But there's also, a lot of things wrong in the world. There are a lot of injustices that I see. People denied things that they should be given, and there are things that I can do, both large and small, to try to at least start to turn the tide and start to change people's hearts and minds, and hopefully get things going in the right direction on some of those things. And again, anyone who knows Catherine probably would agree that I think she's more likely to like single-handedly change the world, if anyone's going to do it, than I am. But I think I'm fine now with doing those little things. I take so much more joy in it now, rather than just thinking about how small they are and how insignificant they are, because I know how much God takes whatever I put in and just multiplies it.
This might be our heaviest episode.
I know, really. Jeez, this is great.
But really good.
Yeah.
And our cleanest.
Our cleanest. This is our cleanest. Yeah, we haven't had to use the one F-bomb.
Nope.
Haven't had to use any of the bombs. No.
Don't do it.
No letter bombs.
Don't
this
do
is
it.
great. I wasn't going to do it.
Okay. Because Jimmy raised the bar.
Jimmy raised the bar.
And I think we followed.
I'm sure next week we'll lower it, but he raised the bar really high today. I'm passing on the podcast to Jimmy. Jimmy's taking over now.
Okay.
You can stay on. You're still really good, but Jimmy's completely made me negate it. Like, I don't need to be here at all. You guys can just. Aaron is so excited that I'm gone. He's like, I don't have to deal with him anymore. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, keep cheering. Have fun. Enjoy it. You're gonna miss me.
So next week it'll just be like, this is Matt. And there's a big gap. And this is Jimmy. And this is Out of Bed.
Where's Topher? I miss Topher. That's
We're
what
just in his house recording podcasts.
At my house, like I'm just in my room, like I hope they're having fun recording podcasts.
No, we just talk junk about you now.
Mm-hmm.
You guys will pay travel expenses to and from Boston, correct?
Yes,
come down?
exactly. Cool. Yeah. Do you know how big the budget is for this podcast?
Looking around the studio, I can only imagine. You guys had fancy music going on in the beginning. It's got to be
the budget is literally dozens of dollars. Quite literally dozens.
We use Aaron's drinks.
We use Aaron's drinks. We use Aaron's equipment.
Water out of the tap.
We use Aaron's skills and expertise.
And his cell phone to take the photos.
And his cell phone to take the photos. So we spend zero money on this podcast. Aaron spent thousands of dollars, but everybody else, we're good, man.
Aaron's our sugar daddy.
Exactly, yeah. So we've got a little room in the budget for some flight expenses, I think.
Or we can stream you in.
We can, yeah, we'll live stream you.
Aaron, you can do that. You can make that happen, right?
Yeah, you can do that. We just assume Aaron can do anything technically possible. Like, yeah, sure, we'll like Skype him, and then you can just take the audio from Skype. That's how it works, right?
How about a raise?
A raise. So, how much would you like me to multiply your $0 I'm paying you right now? Because I can do it. I can do it a lot. I can multiply that zero a lot if you'd like. Anyway, so this week, we do have a new. We have an outro song, like a real outro song, that has been created for us. I'm not leaving us just yet, but I wanted to mention that so that Aaron stopped looking at his phone and could actually pay attention and know when to play the outro song. I'm just calling you out. I'm sorry. But Jimmy, wow, this was cool. I like this a lot. This is really neat. Did you like that?
Thanks for doing this, man.
That was really nice.
Thanks for sharing your story.
That was way nicer than this podcast deserved. Like, I feel like that should have been like an episode of the Joe Rogan podcast, or like something with like Bishop Robert Barron, or something like Father Mike Schmitz. Like, we are not worthy of this podcast right now.
No, the next episode will be called This is Jimmy.
This is Jimmy. It is a This Is Us style review show of Jimmy's life, where we just talk about all the great and beautiful blessings that Jimmy has gotten. Sponsored by his wife. So, shout out to Catherine for sponsoring all of our future episodes.
Congrats on a good life, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do you have anything you would want to share with people before we get going? Like anything that you advice or anything you've kind of gleaned from life that you want to kind of share with others?
Yeah, just, I mean, if it wasn't obvious from my story, and I'm actually inspired to say this by Frankie's shirt here, which says, your brokenness is welcome here. I would just encourage people to recognize that your brokenness is something that you share in common with every other human being on the planet, and that God has incredible plans for how to use that brokenness to serve him and to help others. So, don't be discouraged, and just know how much you're loved and how much you're valued and how important you are, and keep pressing on. And that's about it.
Awesome.
Oh man. Okay. Jeez, I'm gonna go cry a bunch because that just made me feel a lot of things. So, thank you so much, Jimmy. Thank you guys, everybody, for listening. This was Out of Bed. And just go ahead and follow us on our social media, which we don't have yet as I'm saying this, but we will have. So it'll be like written down in the description, and then eventually we'll start saying it. Thank you so much to Jimmy and to Matt and Aaron and to my friend Justin for writing this song. This is my friend Justin. That's his voice. He was on the second episode of this podcast, and this is his musical project Warm that is going to be coming out soon, but this is a song he wrote for us. So thank you guys so much, and bye.
Bye.
Bye.